Alright, so it's early in the morning. I didn't sleep last night. I got into some problems yesterday that aren't really that important and it pissed me off. So I'm really tired and I kind of sort of forgot what happened last week. But yeah, it was it was pretty atypical of what was supposed to happen this week. We find out more about Lady Nagant's backstory and why she ultimately decided to start working with All for One. And then obviously some fighting and some action, which looked really good, by the way. I was actually very impressed with that, and Lady Nagant actually was able to show off more than what I thought she was going to be capable of. Like, I think I said it in my last video last week for My Hero Academia. Her quirk is really simple, but she's capable of being able to do like a handful of things to make it a lot more complex, and it makes it interesting to watch, and I really liked it. And then you, of course, give her the ability of airwalk, like All for One did for her. And now she's basically just a moving artillery strike that can show off different types of projectiles wherever the hell that she wants, which is kind of insane. And that was the point. This is like the biggest obstacle Deku has had to fight so far since going full vigilante. And it was really cool, right? He starts trying to use a multiple of the previous wielders' quirks all in one quick succession. He's trying to use Black Whip, Danger Sense, Float, Smoke Screen, and then he uses the third one for all uses quirk, Fajin, which basically allows him to be able to store up kinetic energy, and then he's able to then use that kinetic energy to then give him increased speed or power, which it sort of kind of sounds like his like normal like basic attacks that he had been doing for a long time, but now he's like able to store that up completely and then use that whenever he wants. And in the episode we actually see him use that, and I like the way that they implicate how he can actually use it. So he stored up kinetic energy in his legs, and then he used one leg to like moving closer towards Chisaki, because Lady Nagant was about to use him to try to distract Midoriya in their confrontation, but it didn't work out. And then he used the other leg to then rush back to Lady Nagant, so that way he could incapacitate her and then try to get information about where All for One and Shigaraki currently were. But the fight was really cool, but I liked seeing more about Lady Nagant's like character and why she did what she did, and why she kind of hates the Hero Society, and why she was then sent eventually to Tartarus. And it's because she worked with the Safety Commission, right? The same organization that Hawks was working with. And they both had to do a lot of really terrible, horrendous things in order to be able to try to keep society going the way that they wanted it to go, without the public actually knowing about that whatsoever. And Lady Nagant didn't like that. She didn't like how they were basically hiding all this information from the general public that they probably deserved to know, but they just never mentioned it. So eventually it just got to the point where she felt like she was being used, she felt like she was being manipulated. She was constantly reminded of all the like the blood of the people that she's had to murder firsthand, like on her hands, and she can't function like a normal hero. She doesn't really feel like she's doing like true hero work. She's just constantly used and abused for someone else's own selfish gain. And so she, kills the members of the Safety Commission at the time, and then she goes full rogue, and she goes and she starts becoming a villain, and it's considering. What's also interesting to consider at the time was that, because I guess there were also other vigilantes during that time that were gaining a lot of admiration and respect, which is kind of interesting because that's, I think, what's supposed to end up eventually happening with Deku, right? He's not like an official hero in the eyes of the general public, or at least in like the modern hero society, where you're essentially working with the government to be able to go and stop all the villain attacks and stuff like that. But Deku is like going off on his own to do what he needs to do. He's not really working with anybody besides the top pros. Obviously, they're the only ones that are aware of what he's doing, but it's a necessary sacrifice for them. I just really dig this episode, and at the end of the fight, we actually see more of like the villainous nature of All for One, and he obviously wasn't just gonna allow Lady Nagant to have that airwalk quirk that he gave her without any repercussions, and so he trapped the quirk that he gave her, and it was basically just a means as like a safety precaution to just in case Lady Nagant somehow failed in her mission, which ultimately, yes, she ended up doing so, and she essentially gets blown the fuck up from inside. But I like how Hawks, when he eventually shows up, and Midoriya are still trying to help her, because Deku even calls her out on her BS as he's trying to save her from falling from midair. That she still has the heart and the mind of a hero. She still wants to do good things, just not for the reasons that she was essentially made to do so. That's not what she wants to do. That's not what she's trying to strive for. Because Deku points out that the first shot that she had taken towards Chisaki was off. If she wanted to kill him, Deku essentially would have died from that gunshot, right? Because of the way that the trajectory works. But he didn't die. Or in the very least get incapacitated. No, her shot was off, and Deku was able to move Chisaki away from the trajectory of the bullet and then rush back in and then stop Lady Nagant. And I really liked how Nagant looks at both of their eyes, and she's like, how can he still have that sparkle in their eyes? And it's because they had what she really didn't have. She was essentially just by herself, and she was a tool for other people's motivations, and she was used and abused by the commission that she was working with, the people who were telling her that they were going to do great things and they were going to change the world, but ultimately they weren't really doing that, and not in her eyes at least. But in their eyes and during their experiences, they had something more to help them keep going on the correct path, which ultimately was, Deku's family and his friends and his teachers and his mentors, and even the same thing to a certain extent with Hawks, with the fact that he felt like he had this true, genuine connection towards Endeavor, because Endeavor was ultimately the reason why Hawks is currently where he is now, right? He was the one that basically saved Hawks from the life that he had previously lived. So they still have, optimism. They still have hope that even though the world is currently the way that it is, that it could eventually go back to what it once was before. No matter how long they have to try to be able to try to put everything back together like it once was. I just thought that was interesting. I really liked the episode. The action was really good. I was genuinely really surprised when Nagant blew up, because I wasn't expecting that. And I really hope that she doesn't die, because I like her contrast in comparison to Hawks. I think that's what makes her really interesting. And it would be even more interesting to see what would happen if she survived this, and she now is gonna start trying to help out the heroes again, but now she's gonna be doing it for her own reasons and the truest and purest intents of what she wants to do in her heart. I think it would be really cool. And like I said before, I think her design is fantastic. It's one of the best designed characters in the entire show. But whatever ends up happening with her, I guess it's just what's gonna end up happening. I don't know if she's gonna return again. Maybe not. She'll probably end up dying in the next episode. I guess one thing I would point out for the last thing is, normally in the previews, Deku at the very end, after they show a couple of scenes of the next episode, he ends off every single episode with Plus Ultra. He doesn't do that in this episode, and I think this is the first time that they actually have that happen. I don't remember any other occurrence where it has happened, but this is the one that really stood out to me if it has happened before, and I think that's really interesting. So I think Deku's character is gonna turn towards a specific direction that I don't know where it's gonna go. There are a couple of stuff that I vaguely saw that happened in the manga at certain points, but I don't know if that's what's gonna happen here. And I guess one more thing. I do like how when Deku and Chisaki talk to one another, he's basically like, hey, you remember Eri? and like he did to her, if you apologize with the sincerest intent in your heart towards her, then I'll commit to the promise that Nagant had made to you. And I think that just perfectly fit Deku's character, because at this point Chisaki doesn't really have anything. He even like keeps repeating that himself. He's basically just a liability at this point. He's not capable of being able to do anything. He has literally no capability of being able to do any harm or any good whatsoever. And the only thing that he wants to do is just see, I think is either his father or his grandfather. I forget which one it is, or like his adopted father. I forget which one it is. It's been a while. But I like that. It fits Deku's character. That's the last thing I wanted to mention, though. Really liked this episode. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, actually. But yeah, that's pretty much all that's pretty much all I have to say. Tomorrow is obviously the Boruto episode, so probably not going to be anything very good, because it never is. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more, please be sure to subscribe. Stuttering on my words, like I said, I'm tired. I'm not really speaking coherently. Anyways, that's it. I'll see you guys next one. I'm out. Peace.